Hey everyone, it's Tim from Linessa Farms Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. Thanks for joining us today. Are you wondering about feed conversion and size? We've been getting calls from individuals saying, man, I want my lambs or my goats to get buff and to get big. What do I need to do? Well, we're gonna talk about it today. There's 4 specific things that you need to know to make sure that you can get those animals nice and buff. Stay tuned to find out more. There's 4 things that you need to know when it comes to helping your animals grow to their full potential. And those 4 things are general health of the animal. When we talk about general health, we're talking about keeping them free of worms, keeping them free of parasites, regardless of if you're raising them in confinement or if you have them on open pasture. Point number 2, genetics. You got to think about the genetics. Every animal has its God-given genetics that it has at birth. Your goal to get that animal to grow appropriately is to give it all the tools that it needs to reach its full genetic potential. The next thing that we need to talk about, point number 3, is going to be feed. Feed is very, very important. Making sure, again, that you give them all the nutrition, all the nutrients, all the vitamins, everything that they need, all those building blocks that they need in order to grow appropriately. And 4th, we need to talk about demand. Demand is the same in this instance as exercise. Just like you or I, if we are going to the gym, we are telling our body, we are training our body and saying, hey, I need to add more muscle. We do that by doing things like running, lifting weights, doing cardio, doing all kinds of things. These animals are no different. You can't simply take an animal, throw them in a pen, throw feed at them, and expect them to get huge. They're going to grow, but they're not going to reach that full genetic potential without having exercise. So let's recap on these 4 points real quick, starting off with point number 1. When we talk about medications, this is going to depend on you specifically and your farm and what's right for you. I'm not telling you that you have to medicate your animals, but what I will tell you when it comes to overall health is that you need to make sure that you keep them as healthy as possible. I also want you to think about things like parasites, coccidia, navel ill, all of these problems that you can run into with animals at the time of birth up through the time of weaning. Here at Linessa Farms, we choose to give our animals coccidia stat medications in their feed that's going to help them from developing coccidia. We also watch them for worms, and you can see all this in our other videos, but maintaining that overall health, making sure that the animal's not competing with something else and impeding their growth. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean in essence is if you've got an animal that's full of coccidia or full of worms, or even if they have a subclinical level of coccidia or worms, when you're feeding them, part of that parasite is taking that good nutrition from that animal and using it up instead of it all going to that animal. So that's where our drugs like totrazeril, decox, rumensin, whatever it is that you're giving, comes in really, really handy. You can check out worming. Worming is going to come more into effect as we get closer to weaning. We have our trifecta method that you can watch right here. Another important part of this is keeping moms healthy. Is mom able to make enough milk? Is mom keeping clean of worms and parasites and coccidia and things like that? Any illness that can affect these babies is going to be a problem. I don't care if it's E. coli. I don't care if it's coccidia. I don't care if it's worms. I don't care if it's pneumonia. You got to keep them healthy. You got to keep them free of parasites. Genetics is probably one of the most important keys to this overall puzzle. The animal has to have the genetic potential needed to grow appropriately. Every animal has its genetic potential. We need to find the animal with the best genetic potential that we can afford, feed them, and do all of these other things to get them where we need them to be. So when we talk about genetics, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now we have the advantage here on Linessa Farms of raising lots and lots of different breeds. So it's a little bit easier for us to see these profound differences between the breeds. But on your farm, or maybe going to a farm to purchase, you might not be able to notice the difference. Now, these lambs are not the same age. This one's actually quite a bit older than this one. So this one's actually got a couple weeks on this guy right here. This is a hair sheep cross, mostly Katahdin, has about 1/8 genetics of a white-faced wool breed in it. This one here is a Poll Dorset. 2 weeks difference. This fella here is weighing in at about 43 pounds. This one here is weighing in at about 17 pounds. So we have this huge difference between the two. This is genetics. Both of these animals have access to the exact same feed, the exact same protein, they get the exact same nutrition. They've both been treated for coccidia, everything else that you can think of. So yes, this one is a male, yes, this one is a female, but for all intents and purposes, we're looking at profound differences, and these differences are genetics. This animal is going to put on feed conversion way better than this animal is. This animal will go in there and put down some feed, let me tell you. But again, you're just not seeing it. So that's really something that you have to watch for when we talk about genetics. I'd also like to pull out a couple goats for you real quick. I'm going to show you the difference between them as well. So here's our next difference, and this one's actually a little bit closer because both of these goats have the same daddy. So this is this cute little sucker. This is Oatmeal. Is it Oatmeal? This is Oatmeal. Oatmeal and Mike here both have the same father. The dad is a boar. Mike's mama is a Nigerian dwarf, and Oatmeal's mama is a La Mancha. Full Nigerian dwarf, full La Mancha. And so you're seeing the difference. Same age, very close, within 1 day of each other, and you're seeing the difference is significant. Again, something to keep in mind, we can see this on our farm because we have all of these different breeds. If you're going to a farm that only has one breed, it may be more difficult to discern which ones are the good ones and which ones aren't. This is where you want to ask questions to the individual that's raising them about the genetics of the parents. That can come in handy as well. But just wanted to give you this comparison so you kind of have an idea of what we are talking about. When it comes to nutrition, we believe that feeding up to but not over 20% is about as high as you want to go when we talk about total crude protein. Now, obviously, your animal needs to have a well-balanced diet. Now, you don't have to feed creep. Now, for most of you that are going to be involved in 4-H or you're going to be involved in showing, creep feed is going to be a necessity, and grain is going to be a necessity that you're going to have to do if you want to be competitive. I understand that some of you do not feed grain and that you don't want to do that. There are other options for you, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're giving that animal all the nutrition that it can get. I feed grain to any animal that I am going to show. This, of course, is based off of our genetics and other factors. There are a lot of feed additives that you can use. If you go to linessafarms.com, go to our Foundation Feed store, on there, you're going to see that we have some feed additives that are going to help your animals go after creep a little bit better. We also have some supplements that you can give to your adults as well. We have our high octane feed. This is a high fat supplement. It smells delicious. For those of you that have had it before, you know it smells like butterscotch. It is fortified with vitamin A, E, and D. Really helps the animals go after it well. We also have our cram bone powder. This much powder right here is going to flavor 50 pounds of feed, 50 to 75 pounds of feed to taste like green apple. It is really good. You don't have smell-o-vision, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. But basically, my whole shop, the whole Foundation Feed shop smells like green apples. We had this made for us by a company, I believe, out of Arkansas, and they made this for us. It is fantastic. It is not dusty. It is sprayed on, the flavoring is actually sprayed on rice hulls, so it's not dusty, it gets distributed well, and the animals absolutely love it. Last but not least, of course, we have our minerals. Minerals are very important, and this is a way to help offset any nutritional deficits that you may have. So regardless of what you're doing, you're going to want to have good quality hay, you're going to want to make sure that you are giving them the vitamins and minerals that they need, and you're going to want to make sure that they have clean, fresh water. If you want to push them after that, you're going to have to start looking at some feed additives, some grains, and things like that. Again, don't have to. These are the things that you're going to have to do if you want to be competitive. Last but not least, I want to talk to you about the importance of exercising your animal. Your animal on its own is probably not going to get enough exercise, especially if you have it in a confinement situation. It's very important that you start walking and exercising your animal at a young age, get it used to being handled, get your youngsters involved, and get that animal used to them. It's going to pay dividends in the end. What does exercise look like? Here in the United States, we find that there's 3 main ways that an animal is exercised. You have your general walking. This involves putting an animal on a halter, walking them around. We have track running, where they'll actually put a lamb or a goat inside of a track with a dog, and that dog will chase that animal. The last one that you'll see is generally on a treadmill. Treadmills, they'll put the animal on there. They have special halters and things that they do. They put them on there and they walk them both forwards and backwards. Super tip for today: when your animal is being walked, you want to make sure that your child or handler is handling them correctly. We always want to practice like we play. Teach that animal good habits. Those good habits involve holding the head in an appropriate manner, making sure that the head and neck are straight and in line. If you have any questions about this, you absolutely must watch our video that we did with David Cook. David is a national judge, and he talks about all of these important tips. I'm Tim from Linessa Farms, specialty in heirloom livestock. Thanks for joining us again today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.